We have all seen this chart, the shockingly simple math, but come to find out, it's all a lie. Hello everyone, my name is Zach, and welcome to On Cash Flow, where I help you become a master of your own cash flow. Now let's get started. Let's first start by talking about what is early retirement. Well, the answer to that depends on who you ask. Some people see early retirement as any age before 55, and this is probably because the 401k rule of 55, which allows you to retire at, you guessed it, 55. But then you'll go and you ask some other people and they say, well, early retirement is any time you retire before the age of 65. And maybe the reason why some people think it is any age before 65 is because 65 is the age that you become eligible for Medicare. And now if you go and you ask the Social Security Administration what early retirement means, they're going to most likely tell you it means any age before your full retirement age according to them. So if you were born after 1960, for example, which is probably most of you watching this, including myself, then your full retirement age would be 67. So if you retire before 67, then you retired early. They even allow you to take Social Security benefits as early as age 62. And then the F.I.R.E community comes along and they say early retirement is pretty much any age, all right? Any age you want it to be, that could be early retirement. Early retirement is simply based on math, according to the F.I.R.E community. But here's why early retirement is a lie. Mostly it's because early retirement isn't what you really want to do, is it? You don't really want to cease working altogether forever, which is the textbook definition of retirement. Many of us say that that's what we want to do, but is it really what we want to do? Especially if you're in your 30s and 40s and 50s. You're still pretty young. You still got a lot of life to live. Do you really want to cease working forever? Maybe, maybe not. What do you really want? Do you want more financial security? Do you want more fulfillment in your life? Do you want more leisure time? Do you just want more balance between work and life? Or do you want more control over your life? Maybe all of the above. The F.I.R.E community tries to use these points to try to explain it to the retirement police, but they're not hearing it. Unless you cease working forever, you're not retired early according to the retirement police. And that's okay. Call it whatever you want. Financial independence, retire early. Maybe it's more like financial independence, recreational employment. Maybe you've heard me say that a few times. Maybe you've heard some other people start to call it that as well. But I think this is much more accurate. Early retirement is probably not what you want. You probably want some of those features, such as more financial security, more control of your life, more leisure time, more balance. These are the things that you are most likely seeking, not necessarily to cease working forever. I want to interject really quickly and just say that I created a really cool actionable guide for you on getting started on the path to financial independence, and I want to share with you that at the end of this video. In fact, the cover is sitting right there behind me on that computer screen. Let's get on to more reasons why early retirement is a lie, and that is because early retirement has plenty of downsides that you need to be aware of. Here are some of the most common ones that you'll actually hear. The very first one is you might hear that early retirement has a higher likelihood of early mortality, which means that you're more likely to die younger if you retire early. Now, there is not conclusive evidence on this. Sometimes you'll see things that say this is true, sometimes you'll see the opposite. So as far as I know, there is no conclusive evidence that retiring early will necessarily lead to a shorter lifespan. So I don't think you have to worry too much about that one. One actual downside is pretty obvious, and that is a loss of future income, right? So if you cease working, then you are going to cease creating an income for yourself because you have to do some kind of work usually to create income besides, passive income that comes from your investments. If you're not somehow acquiring more investments, or if you're not somehow acquiring income in some other way, usually through work, then you are foregoing future income. Pretty obvious, right? But here's another downside, and that is that you will have reduced Social Security benefits because the less that you pay into the Social Security system, the less that your benefit is going to be calculated on. Whereas the longer amount of years that you work, the more years that you paid into the Social Security system, the more taxes you paid, the more larger that your benefit is going to be when you reach that retirement age where you start drawing Social Security. But here's the last downside that I'm going to mention that might not be so obvious, and that is boredom. Can you imagine being bored while being retired early? But it does happen, especially if you're human and you realize that you've been working all of your life, you've been contributing something to your society, and then you feel maybe once you retired that you do not feel like you are contributing, or you feel like you are not able to do something productive, and that could lead to a lot of unfulfillment and boredom while you are retired early. That's why I want to offer you a great solution on what to do instead of retire early. And I know this isn't going to apply to everyone, but I think a really great solution, seriously, is self-employment. starting a business, being employed by yourself. This might just be something that you want to do. This might just be something that's internal to you that you might not even realize that you want to do. And it sounds so scary. It sounds like a lot of uncertainty, being self-employed, but it's really not that complicated. There are an endless amount of ways that you can become self-employed, that you can work for yourself, that you can start a business. It doesn't have to be something that is, super scary and super big. It doesn't have to be this overarching goal where you have to start a company that's going to go public and become worth $1 billion. Instead, what self-employment could offer you is flexibility. It could offer you flexibility in the amount of hours that you work, the time of the day you work, the time of the year you work, how often you work, all this kind of stuff. It could offer you a lot of flexibility. And then at the same time, it has a lot of earning potential depending on what kind of self-employment you get involved in. Your ceiling is really as high as you want it to be, right? There is no cap like there would be if you were working at a company. When you're self-employed, you create your own ceiling. And then of course, you have a lot of options for what you would be as self-employed. You can start a physical business, an online business, you can offer services, you can sell products. There are so many options. And that's why I think that self-employment is a great alternative to becoming retired early. And yes, it's not for everyone. There's still options out there such as part-time and seasonal employment. But I think that self-employment can be one of the best alternatives to actually retiring early. I just want to say that I put a lot of research and effort and heart into these videos, and I would really appreciate it if you took a second and just hit the like button on this video. Thank you very much. I used to think that I wanted to retire early, and now I do claim that I retired early at age 27. I had multiple six figures when I exited the W-2 workforce, and that's what I called retired. I said, you know what? I'm not working at a regular W-2 job. I'm not working for money anymore. That is what I considered myself to be retired. And instead I said, you know what? I'm just gonna make a few educational videos on YouTube for fun, maybe to help some people out. And already, even though it is still a small scale, this channel has become something that I could never had imagined just a few years ago when I first started making videos. Along my path to financial independence, where I got it wrong was I was planning out the next 50 years. I said, okay, if I'm able to stop working at age 27 and I live for another 50 years, this is what my life is gonna be like for those next 50 years. That is impossible. You have no idea who you are going to be in 50 years. You have no idea who you're going to be in 5 years, maybe even in 1 year. After declaring my financial independence a little over 2 years ago, I am a much different person than I was back then. There are so many things about me that are different than just 2 years ago that I could have never imagined, that I could have never planned for. And I think it's going to be similar to you as well. Once you do reach that magical number where you can say, I can retire early now, I think that you're going to be a much different person when you reach that number. I think you're going to be a much different person a few years later. And that's why I think that it is very unlikely that you are going to retire early and stay retired forever. And speaking of that, this leads me to the big question here. I want to know from you in the comments below. Why are you seeking financial independence? Do you actually want to retire early, or are you seeking something else? Please let me know in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear what you have to say. And now, like I mentioned previously, I made a complete guide for you on getting started on the path of financial independence, and I put it into a nice little audio guide for you. Okay, that's the cover for it right there on the computer screen. And I would really appreciate it if you next went to this other video that I made and watched it, because I explain this audio guide in much more detail. Okay, that video is gonna pop up on the screen right after I get off the screen. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm Zach from OnCashflow.com. And I hope to see you next time. But here's the last downside that it doesn't have to be so you probably want some of those features.